let's just add some scales. So in this case, I'm just going to draw very lightly, almost what we did here with the metallic arm. I'm just going to go over to shapes, and then I'm going to keep doing that here, and then I'm going to do, follow these shapes along with these lines. You see what I'm doing? I'm just creating kind of a shapes of like tubes and cylinders and all that good stuff. And this is just these are just guidelines. So with that said, now I'm going to go ahead and draw. So these are all horizontal. Now that I have these horizontal lines going all the way around the arm, I'm going to go ahead and do vertical lines. So you're just going to see what we're doing is we're just creating more shapes. See? Just following along the muscles. Same thing here. Okay, and now these are all kind of crossing over each other, as you can see. And now I'm going to use them as a guide. So we'll try and zoom in on this a little bit more. Not too much. How about that? Okay, now you should be able to see. Now what I'm going to do is just create kind of a scaly kind of a look. So I'm just going to take all these on the first layer here and curve it over like this. Then underneath here, I'm just going to, in the middle of the line, so these were going with the, if I can explain it a little bit better, I was just looping from line to line. Now I'm going to start as the center of the line. And what this does is it just creates contrast and moves the scales down. And I'm going to do this over and over again and again. And these lines are just here as a guide. Nothing has to be, you're not married to this sketch. You can always change it at any moment. And this is really just for kind of a foundational guideline. Do the same thing here. And so now we have these little guides. And as we get lower, I'm going to make them a little bit less. And this is just for effect, and I'll show you as I get down here. Okay, so now what we'll do is we're going to erase this one more time. And we're going to have a leftover. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've erased a lot of the arm here, and I've left the scales behind. So at this point, I'm not even going to draw the arm in. I'm just going to start with the scales because they are the closest thing to the camera. And I'm just going to put in hints of their shape. So underneath here, again, I'm sticking with the same light source. And I'm just going to keep drawing. And this is pretty easy. I'm making this up as I go along here. And what I'm doing is, since these bottom loops here, these curves, they're further away from the camera and they're casting somewhat of a shadow. Now we're not doing our shades just yet. We're just kind of penciling this in, so to speak. And then we'll start doing more details in a little bit. Now you can keep this rough. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, I like sketches kind of rough and gritty and sketchy. They don't have to be super clean unless that's the style you prefer. But here we go. So now I'm just going to start with this, and I'm going to create some shadows. So since our light's coming from here, I'm just going to cast shadow under all these little scales. And remember, consistency. The more consistent we are, the more believable it looks. And see what I'm doing? I'm just quickly rendering this. It's not rocket science. So don't try too hard to get this perfect. You can even start shading some in here. And actually, you know, you can just choose a chunk and just shade it in. You know, this is away from the light, so it can be considered a darker area. And right here, you can start just drawing kind of lumps. See this? This indicates that the scale is kind of going around the bicep. And you can also do that here. Only on the back of the arms here, closer to the light. Just want to outline it. Don't want to shade too much. We keep the light very minimal. I'm sorry, the shades very minimal, and let the light do its work. Now, here, we can just build along the muscles here. You can just get crazy with this. There's no rhyme or reason. I mean, again, all I'm doing is drawing little curves and putting little shadows underneath it. And, you know, I think a lot of times us artists, especially when we're working or just learning, we overcomplicate things. You know, we think ourselves into trouble. And, you know, when you do that, there's a saying that says analysis leads to paralysis. So you become paralyzed with the art. You're not sure what to do. Now what I'll do at this point is I'll create, so I know that the muscle kind of flows here. So I'll create like a shadow contrast, shade it in. Same thing here. I know that there's going to be some muscles here. Now again, if you don't know this, go ahead and study your anatomy. You want to be an expert at anything, or if you want to be an expert at anything, or even rudimentary, you know, if you want to be considered decent at something, study the heck out of everything. You know, study other artists, study anatomy books, study light and shade, study life. You know, ask artists, ask, you know, I myself, I'm a mentor. So I have a lot of students that kind of follow my guidance, and they constantly ask me questions, and, you know, I help them out as much as I can. But, you know, you don't want to hold hands either. You want to kind of let the student, you, the artist, kind of find your way. Sometimes a little too much help can be a bad thing. Okay, so now we've kind of merged and kind of create this fusion look here. Now I'm still gonna draw these little spikes here, and I'm just getting a little silly with it, but I like it. You know, I like this kind of stuff. You can really just create anything, monsters, aliens, you know, it's really, there's no limits. And I'm just leaving a lot, like I said in the last one here, leaving a lot to the imagination. And now this time what I'm going to do is, you see how these little scales are going down and they're all going the same motion? Well, once I get to this elbow point, I'm just going to go ahead and reverse them like this. Now I'm just outlining. And since I'm going to keep this all shadow because it's away from the light, I think it'll be fun. See what I'm doing here? Now I'm just shading it in. Keep it fun. Keep it interesting. If you're not interested, it won't be interesting. You have to keep your mind active and amused, and just keep yourself having fun. Now, you can technically go ahead and draw these little scales all over, or you can just incrementally add a few. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create more spikes up top. So like right here. And add a little bit more detail. So from this front knuckle, I'm just darkening in the line here. I'll darken in the line here. Another one. Now you can also kind of get crazy and just from the knuckle, you can just create kind of a claw. And so you saw that I just imagined that as I was going. And then you can start doing details. You can just draw some random horizontal lines here or diagonal lines underneath. Do some of the zigzag lines here. Some more like this. Just get creative. Just always keep your pencils moving, your mind sharp and aware. You know, don't get too distracted. I myself, I like to turn my phone on Do Not Disturb. And also don't overwork yourself. You know, if you find yourself kind of drawing too much, you'll start to feel fatigue, and then you're going to start relating it to something negative that's going to feel too much like work. And this is what creates procrastination. You want to make it fun, because think about it. When you're doing something fun, do you ever procrastinate? When you were a kid and you got a brand new bicycle, did you procrastinate to ride it? Probably not. Or how about PlayStation 5? I bet if you knew that there's a PlayStation 5 waiting for you at home right now for Christmas or whenever, your birthday, you would be super excited to play. You'd start looking up, you know, certain things on the internet just to find out little shortcuts and what to do and what not to do. You'd just be super in tune and very excited about it. And that's how you should be about your art. Because art is your skill, it's creative, it's something that no one can duplicate. Like, people can come close if they copy, but you know, you're the originator. Here you go. So here's a kind of a monstrous looking, jagged, spiky arm. And you can do other things too, but I think these are two good examples. Now I'm going to clean this up. When I see things get a little too muddy, I like to get them cleaner and beef them up. Now what I mean by beef them up is just thicken up these lines. Voila. I think when I kind of step back away from it, I think this looks pretty decent, you know, considering that we didn't even know what we were going to draw. We just knew that we were creating textures. You can erase some of these lines here. Just clean up. Now, your eraser is a tool too. Don't forget, a lot of people don't like to use the eraser, but use the eraser often. Use it, become friends with it. Realize that the eraser is your friend. It is there to help you. You can create certain effects with the eraser that you wouldn't get otherwise.